Hi there, I'm John Keirstead from Arctic Spas Vancouver Island and Arctic Spas North Shore, and also featuring Coldtub. So we just did a sequence of videos on cold tubs, and I went through 3 of the models that we had, and I touched on some of my personal reasons for using them and stuff. But invariably, as people start to know that we're carrying more of these wellness type products, like we carry the saunas now, we carry various cold tubs and plunges, and of course the hot tubs and swim spas. So a full wellness backyard experience is available. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what are some of the benefits that you get from, from cold tubs. And one of my friends sent me a thing, and so I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This company, their Facebook or Instagram page is Steps to Longevity, and they're talking about cold water immersion. And they said, cold water immersion spikes dopamine by 250%. For reference, that's the same increase as cocaine. Which I thought, and the difference was that this lasts for hours, and it's completely free, completely legal, and scientists published this in 2000. So this is not new. That's 26 years ago this was published. This study was done in Prague, and researchers wanted to understand the effects of cold water. And in fact, since then, I noticed, like in the last, especially since Wim Hof and some of these other great aspects that have come out of research on cold plunging, has changed some of the stuff. That study, they immersed the people in 14-degree water for an hour. That's a long time. Nowadays, what they've determined is that even using the same temperature of water that they used in the study, which was about 57 degrees centigrade, 14 degrees centigrade, 57 Fahrenheit. So quite cold. We keep this one here in the showroom at 55. The one at my house I keep at 48, right? So it depends. One of the things that I think that a lot of the research agrees with is that it doesn't have to be frozen, right? You simply need to be cold enough underneath your body temperature for it to work. The other interesting thing about the studies was that the people had this effect afterwards for hours, right? So if you just start your day with a cold plunge, it has this long-lasting effect on you, and can really treat a lot of different ailments. So the dopamine is an interesting one, because the dopamine is the happy, I call it the happy hormone that our own brain increases. So for things like pain relief and that sort of stuff, you just feel good. And I noticed that even with the contrast therapy going back and forth, when I jump back in and feel that pins and needles, the dopamine starts hitting, and you just feel really great.
Oh, and I can feel the pins and needles immediately as I go from the cold to the hot. I've got those pins and needles in there. It's similar for any of you that ever used a hot tub and then gone out into the snow.
I use this primarily for after I train. The next morning I often feel like I've been beat up because I've been beat up. And so I sit in the cold tub and reflect on my life decisions, and get better, feel better to fight another day. For perspective, the dopamine hit you get from eating your favorite food is 50%. Sex increases at 100%, and cocaine by 250%. So cold water, 250%, without the crash, and perhaps without some of the social challenges one might have if you made those other decisions, right? The other thing that was interesting is that they found that this cold water works differently in that it increases dopamine gradually. So you don't get a real peak and then peter out. You peak over the time frame, and there's no crash or something like you would have with a drug, for instance. There was something else that I thought was interesting. I'm just going to see if I can find it here. Norepinephrine increased by 530%. This is a neurotransmitter responsible for focus and alertness, right? So what they're saying is when we get in this cold water, our body enters this fight or flight response, and there's neurotransmitters released. And that's why a lot of people that have brain fog or otherwise, they say, when they get start using a cold tub, all of a sudden they're clear again. They can think, they can focus and stay focused. And so I think that's another side benefit that athletes get, but lots of people that have these, that very wealthy people that are entrepreneurs and stuff, they buy these as well because it allows them to think clearly. And in this day and age, being able to think clearly when you need to is really important. So that cold plunge in the morning can do that as well. The next thing, I was talking about how cold does it need to be? Well, most of the research that's been published shows that if it's in around that 14 degrees Celsius, like 57 Fahrenheit, down to, you can go as low as like 3, but there's no real, they don't notice much difference when you get really low. It's more of a, hey, I'm really courageous, I can go into really, really cold water. You can get a lot of these benefits just from a cold shower. So I'm not saying you have to have a cold plunge. The nice thing about a cold plunge is it's an activity. It's easy to create this as a routine. And I don't know, I'm a little girl. Turning the shower from hot to cold, that shocks my body so much compared to this. And the other thing is they compared this study to the Windhoff method, and they found the Windhoff method also involves breathing. And so there's more than just the cold water therapy that's going on there. There's some other brain chemistry going on that's related to the breathing, and it's accessing different parts of the response. So you still get some of that fight or flight response, but it's actually slightly reduced in the Windhoff method, because part of what they're doing is calming their body so that they can enter kind of a trance-like state and be able to stay in the water longer. So how long, I'm going to stop doing that. How long should you stay in? Most of the studies say that 2 to 3 minutes you can get most of the benefit. And even after 30 seconds, a lot of people get some of the benefit. But the target's usually that 2-minute mark. If you get past 2 minutes, it actually becomes a lot easier as well on you personally. You just find that the initial shock is over with, and you can, especially if you do focus on your breathing and calm and just kind of observe your body's, you're not going to get hurt in the water, so you just observe what's happening. Wow, my toes feel colder. Wow, my brain feels colder. I can feel my blood moving, especially when I go from the hot to the cold. I can literally feel the blood moving towards my core, and I think about how good it feels, and it is true. I hadn't really thought of it until I got this from my friend about how much it focuses me. It really wakes me up, and so I think that this can replace that morning coffee, or this can replace other things that we use to wake ourselves up. This is a great way to wake yourself up. It really wakes you up, and you feel it for hours later. Another benefit too, and there's studies to support this as well, when you stay in after 2 minutes, you start this thermogenesis, which makes perfect sense. Your body starts to cool down, and so your body says, holy, we gotta heat back up. So it starts all of the furnaces and starts heating your body up so that the fluid gets hot again. And it takes a lot of energy to heat fluid up. And so this has got a caloric burn effect. So for somebody that's trying to lose a little extra weight, this can be a part of that. Like all things, use your common sense, consult a physician if you have health issues or otherwise when you're using any type of therapy. The hot and cold therapy that you can get from these types of products, whether it's a sauna, whether it's a hot tub, whether it's a cold plunge or a hybrid of that, or a swim spa, these things are wellness products that can help you live a happier life. You can give yourself a dopamine hit whenever you want. Instead of scrolling to get your dopamine hit, you can actually have a fantastic day just by starting your day off into some cold water. So I wanted to let people know about that, and if you want to know more about how we actually build these and about our past and reputation in this market, please look at the other videos and how we build them, and I go through and actually wet test some of the models to show you. So thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe the video. Helps us put more of these videos out to help people. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them there and maybe that'll start another video for us. I'm John Keirstead from Arctic Spas. Thanks for listening, and of course from Coldtub. Thank you. Have a great day.